November 17th, 2020. The vast deserts of Dubai were silent, save for the faint hum of jet engines and the unmistakable roar of human ambition. High above the sands, a man defied gravity, soaring through the air. This was Vince Reffet's world, a realm where the impossible was merely the starting line. But in this breathtaking dance with the skies, the line between triumph and tragedy is perilously thin. In what seemed like an ordinary training session, the unthinkable happened. What unfolded that day shocked not just the extreme sports community, but the entire world. How could someone who seemed invincible in the air meet such a devastating end? This is the story of Vince Reffet, a man who lived to push boundaries only to meet the ultimate challenge of his extraordinary life. Vince Reffet's journey into extreme sports began early. Skydiving was practically in his blood. Born into a family of skydivers, Vince made his first jump at just 14, a tandem dive gifted by his father. By the time he was 15, he was jumping so low, and that feeling of free fall soon became a calling. Initially, Vince envisioned a future as a carpenter and judo competitor, but the allure of free falling through open skies overshadowed everything else. Teaming up with fellow skydiver Fred Fugain, Vince found a partner who matched his passion for pushing the edge. Together, they became the face of the Soul Flyers, a team dedicated to redefining the limits of aerial sports. Vince and Fred's stunts captured global attention. From daring head-down base jumps off cliffs to daring wingsuit flights at night, they constantly pushed boundaries. One of their most iconic stunts was their jump from Dubai's Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world. Plunging over 2,700 feet in the air, Vince and Fred launched into freefall, their trails of colored smoke painting the skies in a jaw-dropping spectacle. But heights alone weren't enough for Vince. In 2009, he joined Swiss pilot and inventor Yves Rossi to become part of the Jetman Dubai team, and his lifelong fascination with flight reached new heights. Strapped to a jet-powered wing with 4 miniature engines, Vince soared through the skies at speeds of up to 250 miles per hour, transforming from a skydiver to a true aviator. Yet, even with the thrill of such heights and speeds, Vince's ambitions soared higher still. The jet wing, the powerful machine that Vince trained with and ultimately flew, was no ordinary piece of equipment. Crafted from carbon fiber and powered by 4 compact, yet immensely powerful jet engines, it allowed its pilot to soar through the air at incredible speeds. Controlled by body movements alone, the jet wing could reach incredible speeds, and in Vince's hands, it became a tool that could turn fantasy into reality. But controlling this machine required immense skill and precision, especially at low altitudes. Unlike high-altitude jumps, where there is no room to correct mistakes or deploy a parachute, low-altitude flight left zero margin for mistakes. Every movement was critical, every decision a gamble with fate. For Vince, the thrill of flight was boundless. He described it as a freedom unlike any other, a way to go wherever he wanted, whenever he wanted. His stunts, whether skydiving, base jumping, or jet flying, were feats of immense skill, yet they demanded meticulous planning and preparation. In early 2020, Vince achieved a groundbreaking milestone with the Jetman team. For the first time, he successfully launched himself from the ground instead of jumping from a platform or a helicopter, climbing to a staggering altitude of 6,000 feet. This achievement highlighted the power of the new Jetman technology and fueled Vince's ambition to reach new limits. He was ready to take on even greater challenges, and that was exactly what he had planned to do on November 17th. Tuesday, November 17th, 2020, started like any other training day for Vince Reffet. In the early hours, as the desert sun rose over Dubai, he and his team gathered for the pre-flight briefing. Today's exercise was meant to be a rigorous test, a simulated maneuver where Vince would take off from the ground, fly up, and land on a platform positioned at an altitude of 800 feet. The stakes were high. The team discussed the risks, especially the challenge of maintaining control while hovering so low. At 800 feet, the margin for error was slim. In case anything went wrong, they had an emergency backup plan, a pyro rocket parachute that could deploy quickly, potentially saving his life. This safety measure had been designed to counter the unique risks of flying at such a low altitude, giving Vince a last line of defense if he lost control. With the pre-flight checks completed, Vince suited up, strapping on the powerful jet wing that had become his partner in the sky. The engines roared to life, and within moments, Vince was airborne, rocketing towards the heavens once again. For a few exhilarating seconds, everything seemed to be going as planned. He had done this countless times before, and his confidence was unwavering. But then, in the blink of an eye, something went terribly wrong. The instant Vince lifted off, he felt the familiar rush of adrenaline, the surge of power as the jet engines propelled him into the open sky. But as he approached the 800-foot mark, the jet wing suddenly began to falter. In an instant, Vince found himself in a situation that, even for someone with his experience, would be nearly impossible to recover from. At 800 feet, Vince's jet wing veered off course, sending him into a backflip, a maneuver that, under normal circumstances, he could correct. But his experience in handling these kinds of spins was mostly at higher altitudes, where he had the time and space to steady himself. This time, he was dangerously close to the ground, and every second counted. The backflip sent him spiraling uncontrollably, hovering at an altitude that left no room for error. In those heart-stopping moments, Vince likely tried every maneuver he knew, every technique he had mastered to regain control. Witnesses described seeing his hands move as though he believed he could still correct the flip, trying to bring himself back to a steady flight. He had recovered from similar situations before. He had done it dozens, maybe even hundreds of times. But this time, gravity seemed to have a grip he couldn't escape. Then came the decision that would puzzle investigators and haunt his team. He didn't deploy the emergency parachute. It was there, designed specifically for situations like this, and yet, for reasons unknown, Vince never chose to use it. Was it his instincts as a seasoned daredevil kicking in? A belief that he could still regain control? Or maybe a split-second miscalculation fueled by the rush of the moment? The video footage captured the final tragic seconds. As he spiraled toward the desert floor, the emergency parachute finally deployed, but it was far too late. Vince struck the ground before the parachute could slow his descent. In an instant, his life was taken. The skies, which had been his passion, his freedom, and his playground, had become his final resting place. Following Vince's tragic death, the General Civil Aviation Authority launched an investigation to understand what exactly went wrong. Their findings revealed no technical issues with the jet wing itself. The equipment had functioned flawlessly up until the moment of the accident. The team's safety protocols were clear. In an emergency, Vince was to activate the pyro rocket parachute, and yet he hadn't used it. The investigation couldn't answer the haunting question of why Vince hadn't deployed his parachute. With no clear cause, the mystery deepened, leaving friends, family, and fans around the world to wonder if it had been a conscious choice or simply the result of a momentary lapse. For those who knew Vince, this tragedy felt incomprehensible. He had defied the limits of human flight, breaking records and performing feats that few could imagine. And in the end, he'd been brought down not by the thrill of a high-altitude stunt, but by a training accident just 800 feet from the ground. Vince Reffet's passing was a profound loss, not just to his family, friends, and teammates, but to the entire world of extreme sports. In a career marked by stunts that had left audiences worldwide breathless, Vince had captured something deeply inspiring. A spirit of limitless ambition, a drive to explore the unknown, and an unyielding courage to chase his dreams. But Vince's legacy reaches beyond the stunts he performed. He embodied a spirit of courage and curiosity that will continue to inspire those who push the boundaries of what's possible, whether in the sky or on the ground. In interviews, he often spoke about the shortness of life and the urgency of living every moment to its fullest. "Everything we do is something new," he once said, "and life is so short." In the end, Vince's life was a testament to the thrill of exploration, the beauty of freedom, and the fine line between life and death that every extreme athlete must walk. The skies that had welcomed him so many times took him home one last time. Thank you for tuning in. If you liked the video, remember to like and subscribe for more tales that prove that when gravity is involved, one small mistake can have dire consequences.